Haven't you ever wondered about Sly Cooper's parents? What were they like? What was it like having a father as a former thief? Just that family dynamic alone, it gets you curious. Hey everyone, it's me Vivi, and welcome back to another Sly Cooper video. From the very start of the series, Sly's father has always remained the mystery figure, completely faceless. Even his portrait with his son inside the vault. You can't see his face. Sure, we had a figure in Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, but how accurate of a representation is it really? According to the collection's official strategy guide, his name was Connor. We'll just go with that, Connor. He was the thief. Dr. M used to be the brains. McSweeney in the comics used to be the muscle of the gang, and that's the general idea of this former Cooper gang. Father of Sly Connor aside, we just can't help but wonder, what was Sly's mother like? For starters, perhaps we could compare Sly and Carmelita's dynamic, two people fighting justice on the opposite side of the law, imagining these two getting married and all. I mean, they're in a pretty complex situation, Carmelita's job being on the line and all. You just gotta wonder how she'll eventually deal with that whole thing if you really think about it. As for Connor, we know he was a thief, but we have no idea of the mother. Their first meeting, getting to raise a family together, the mom raising Sly along with the former Cooper thief. Just thinking about Sly and Carmelita's complex situation, presuming they will end up together, you just can't help but wonder the same about Sly's parents. Sadly, the only other thing we do know of Sly's parents, it's both their status. They died by the hands of the Fiendish Five. We just gotta keep something in mind. This is what Sly believed to be true. That's what Sly's been telling the player this whole time. It was only until Sly 2 we realized that Sly placed emphasis on both his parents dying that night, mentioning how they caught up with his parents. Although he saw his father's life being taken away right in front of his eyes, does the same apply for the mother? Sure, Sly believes both, keyword here is both, his parents died that night. But is that the case really? Is the mother in this case, is she really dead? Before we dive deeper, let me just re-emphasize the fact that we knew absolutely nothing about her. Sly was so young back then, poor kid was 8 years old, if we go off of the first game's 100% ending, how he supposedly held the book when he was just 8 years old. Sometimes, memories can get a bit fuzzy. Although Sly believes he lost both his parents that night, it's simply what he believes to be true. What Sly went through as a kid was certainly traumatizing. That shock he went through, especially emotionally, could have caused distortions in his memory. Not necessarily the case of not remembering, more like remembering things that weren't true. A quote I feel resonates with this is, "Research suggests people who have a history of trauma, depression, or stress may be more likely to produce false memories. Negative events may produce more false memories than positive or neutral ones. The only answer or treatment for false memories is independent evidence that corroborates or disproves your memories." Trying to piece these things together, what Sly experienced at that age could have potentially resulted in him believing what's not actually true. In this case, believing both his mom and dad dying by the hands of the Fiendish Five. The games themselves shows the depiction of Connor losing his life, but the mother remains to be a mystery if, of course, Sly experiences false memory. The part about treatment and having evidence? Yeah, about that. Remember this interactive defunct old website of the first game? Not too long ago, we discussed the case files of Murray and Bentley hanging up on the board over there. If we take a look at Sly's case file, something seems very strange. Name Sly Cooper, age 18, this was for the first game. Parents deceased. At first glance, it's believable, but hold that thought. Let's read Sly's history. Found hiding in closet after witnessing burglary, resulting in the loss of his father. Sent by We1 Protective Services to local orphanage. Wait a minute. The loss of his father? Emphasis on one person. Vivi, this was probably just an oversight by the developer. Could be. But where's the fun in that? Welcome to the channel. If his father was the only one found deceased that night, then why does it say parents above? Heck, I mean, it could be like any other ordinary generalized fill this form type of thing, regardless of one parent or two. Now, there's one thing which we got to at least acknowledge, the elephant in the room to sort of speak. Sly retrieves his file right at the start of the first game. You just wonder if he's read his history or not. If Sly were to read about himself, surely he would have noticed only his father being mentioned in that paragraph. Here's the thing, however. Such scenario really falls deep within the realm of uncertainty. Whether he's read his own biography or not, no one really knows. It's just that naturally, we'd think he's read it. And if he did, then surely he would have started asking himself questions, or react to it even. Heck, he'd start questioning the validity of such statement written in his case file, like why isn't his mother mentioned? Another thing, according to this old archived website, Sly's case was written by Carmelita herself. The notes part at least would make sense timeline-wise. The history part could have been information that had been on their system even before Carmelita joined Interpol. After all, Carmelita was a young kid too when the Fiendish Five attacked that night. If Sly's 18 in the first game and Carmelita was 21, well, there you go. She too was young when that attack happened by the Fiendish Five. If anything, if Sly opened his file, he could have brushed off his history because he simply relied on what he remembered, what he thought to be true, regardless of what a document says about his family status. So now, if we truly believe only Connor died that night, this being a case of Sly really having false memory, then what really happened to Sly's mother? Again, bringing up Sly and Carmelita's dynamic, how a thief from a long line of thieves is in love with an agent of the law named Carmelita, albeit complex. These two are still in each other's orbit. Carmelita is so into this guy, she used his amnesia, so-called amnesia, from the end of Sly 3 to tell him, hey, you're my partner, Constable Cooper. Can't get any clearer than that. She's so into him. Just trying to understand the future of these two. How they'll even be able to live together? Carmelita's reputation being at risk and all that, let's not forget. You can't help but ask yourself how Sly's parents did it, or even if they tried to. One sad scenario I have in mind is, the moment Connor died, the mother decided to abandon Sly because she just did not care. Deep down, she resented Sly or the whole idea of even raising a child. You might think, why did it take her 8 years to realize this? Simple. She could have been in it for the money. After all, they did have the Cooper vault full of riches. Perhaps Sly's mom stayed, pretended she liked this whole raising a family thing because of money. That's just how awful of a person she could have been, with no remorse or empathy. The moment the husband was out of the picture, she thought it was time to just escape and not even care about where Sly would wind up. One little detail I want to add, could mean nothing, but I feel it's interesting nonetheless. Notice this portrait. Sly's holding his dad's hand, and a balloon in the other. He's not holding his mom's hand. Obviously, this is a question of his hands being full. But this could also symbolize the difference of relationship Sly had with his parents. Sly could have felt closer to his dad. Could have been a result of the mother never paying attention to her son. That could have resulted in Sly naturally feeling closer to his dad. Sly was hiding in a closet. What he saw that night was Connor's silhouette. Just imagining Sly confronting his mother at this current stage of adulthood, I think that would make for one heck of a scenario. Sly realizing his mom's alive is one, but then comes her justification, her reasoning for not being there. That, I think, would result in one heck of a deep, complex, and enriched story. Like I've said time and time again, this series has so much untapped potential story-wise, it's insane. With that said, what are your thoughts on such theory? Do you feel Sly's mom escaped that night and is still alive out there somewhere? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Like always, thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel on Patreon. Thank you all for watching. You can call me Vivi, and until next time.